I'll tell you all about it. That was real good. That was money, first of all. Let's do another.
What is up, everyone? I am Chris Knight, and this is The Real Review 3000. I'm so glad to have you guys here again for another Gospel According to Chris, and I am so glad to have this guest with us again. This is the third time you've been on. It is John Celestri, John the Animator Guy, a legend, and I mean, that's my terminology for you, a legend in the animation world. I mean, if you follow this guy's career, if you go back, you look at him on IMDb, look up something about animation with his name attached to it, and you're going to see all the cool things that this young man has done in life. But we're here to talk a little bit. You got a new IGG a campaign out there. We talked about it on our last Gospel According to Chris you were on. That is, so we're going to go a little more into what goes in to making these books, making these comics. So why don't we just start right there? Tell me, let's go back to Rough Sketch real quick. How long about from start to finish did that really take you?
Rough Sketch, because of the artwork was already done. I mean, I had a good idea of what kind of material I wanted to do and to have and present. And so it was a matter of culling it. Now, I already knew before I had started the production, the Indiegogo, the Kickstarter campaign, and then once the Kickstarter campaign was successfully funded, then I went into the Indiegogo campaign so that I could do I set it at a very low, the minimum for being able to, if successfully funded, to go into in demand. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to dovetail everything. And one of the things that people don't take into account is planning, scheduling, figuring out how long something is going to take. I know how long something is going to take me because I've been doing it for a very long period of time, and I know what I'm capable of doing and what I'm not capable of doing, but I also build in to, you got to build in some a bumper, it's a buffer time. Otherwise life gets in the way of everything, Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think right there's a good place to start. So Rough Sketch is basically, for those of you who may not have caught on to that campaign, is kind of like a nice compendium of your history of animation, which you've done in the past, a bunch of showing where animation was when you started and where it went through, a lot of that stuff. So like you said, a lot of it was already done,
right?
And
but it was my portfolio. What I did was I pulled sketches from all the various phases in my development.
Yeah.
Right from the word go, and you could see a 6-year-old kid with that to, all the way to the Snuffy and Zoe and today's comic books. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to give a good idea and also not just give drawings, but also I wrote the text and just give us stories about what was going on at the time that those drawings were being done.
Yeah.
So that took a while to do all the time. But I scheduled about a month to do that. But anyway, I knew what I was going to do. I had culled everything together, and so when I got the Kickstarter success funded, then I knew, okay, I can start laying it all out.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much did you ask for in Kickstarter?
Kickstarter, I think I asked 1,000.
Okay. And I know you put in a tweet a while back about which do you think is better, Kickstarter or IGG? I'm sorry, I almost said Indiegogo. And I had expressed the fact that I believe with Indiegogo, it works better for animators, illustrators, comic books, things like that. I always looked at Kickstarter kind of as that tech thing, you know, like you know, the people who come out with that radio cooler motorboat in one.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I always envisioned it. And until you had said something, I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that they kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I read a lot of those comments talking about how Kickstarter might take a little more out or used to and whatnot. I mean, so it was really interesting that you asked that question, but let's go into what's going on here. Mega Moose and I'm sorry.
Snuffy and Zoe.
Thank you. And so with this one, you talked about this when we were talking about your first, like on the first Gospel According to Chris you were on, you talked about it. But so you were already kind of pre-planning it. When did you first start? Because I think the first step is the email list, right? Or do you not do that?
Well, in terms of knowing what I was going to, I wanted to make sure that I had all of the artwork completed and ready to go before I started this Indiegogo campaign.
Okay.
Now, the Snuffy and Zoe books had already been produced over the last 2 years. They were I was working with a small press in England who was trying to produce and publish it. They published like a very small run of the Dragon and the Cupcake, the first book, but it didn't go anywhere at all. Okay. And I don't know why. It just could be a matter of just there are different attitudes about what's a children's material. It could have been, and I don't know. It could have been too American. It could have been too North American. I just can't tell. But anyway, so it didn't go. So I decided, okay, I had already done the second book of What Do You Do with a Stinky Pirate, and that was going to go, but I just held off and I said, well, look, if we can't do the first book, there's no sense in doing the second book. If we're not getting any traction at all. So I held it back, and so I decided I will go and then launch, and this was back in January of this year. And I said, okay, I'm going to do my own line, John the Animator Comics, because I'd already pitched an idea and had done a 12-pager while the Kickstarter Indiegogo campaigns were going last year. Okay. So I'd already completed that. So I said, okay, let me do. I need something bigger. I need to do a full line. So I thought, is that one book, of just one amalgam of stuff? Make it so that kids can share. That's why I've got each book is separate. Okay. And so that was the idea. So I as soon as I was ready, I scheduled for myself to write another 16-page story for Mega Moose, and so therefore I knew that I was going to fill out with the ashcan version, which is the sketches of how I would do the rough drawings for the pages and for Mega Moose, but also the instructions for how to draw and color for Snuffy and Zoe. So I knew I had 5 books, and I figured that would make a big splash, if I did it right, and hopefully, it will at least give something to parents that's a little bit different than say, okay, here's one book and I got 3 kids. What do I do?
Okay. So you say 5 books. I see that you have 3. Let's see here. I'm reading the Indiegogo here.
Well, if you go back and just look at at what's available on the for the perks, you'll see it's what I do is I worked it out for tiers so that You can choose between with a book one, a dragon and the cupcake, and a Snuffy and Zoe drawing book there, or pirate book with the coloring book, or you'd also then do a Mega Moose and the Ash Can version of it, and then you've got the two books of Snuffy and Zoe with one coloring book, or you get the whole package.
I'm looking here at what the first one is. The first one in the Toy Box Adventures is the one with
the dragon and the cupcake.
So that was the first one that you did and was pitching. Yeah. And they printed a small run of it, and what we went into already there. But the what do you do with the Stinky Pirate was the next idea you had that you were coming up with when you first pitched this. So, okay. Now, and I hear a lot of people, because I deal with other people like in Comicsgate and other places, and I deal with a lot of people that do IGG stuff. And I hear the term ash can all the time.
Okay.
On this. So explain what an ash can is.
Okay, an ash can is really, in the old days, it would just be a very low grade version of the book that you're doing, just so that and with no color, on cheap paper, in smaller, I mean, even cheaper than comic book paper.
So like a draft,
smaller, design. I don't know. I thought they were always going to be the same size, but whatever. It was a non-colored version, and they would just call it an ash can because you just toss it into the ash can. It really wasn't made for sale. It was just to prove ownership and that you were actually doing something.
Okay.
So that's what an ash can version is. I decided to do for Mega Moose, calling it the ash can edition, because they were all roughs. They're not the real drawings. But I figured many people have been saying they really like the thought process of seeing what the thought process is, and because they're on paper, I just decided that's what I'm going to do.
See, what I love is, and especially, in rough sketch and then right here, and I guess the draw and color is kind of like that. The Snuffy and Zoe is like that in the draw and color. You show here exactly how animators or people who draw, and I'm nowhere near what you are, but I've drawn for a long time, and they teach you when you first start, and I don't know about how you learned, but for me, when I was being taught, it's draw the cross in the middle of the page, and and form out of there. You do your lines, and as you go along, it looks just like this right here with extra pencil marks showing where you started the basic form of the character. And then as you go along, you go in, you erase those rougher lines in there, and there's steps that go along. I love seeing that too. I mean, like you said, people like seeing that. But what it does is it kind of shows the time that it takes. So with all of this, there's time, and of course time, as people will say in this world, is money.
Right.
So let's talk about this. When you sit down to do this, so the first set, I know you said that the dragon and the cupcake, you said was the dragon and the cupcake was printed by this company. Now, did you buy those, or did you have those given to you so you have them for this, or
no?
Okay.
Those were done. They're the same size book, dimensionally wise, but the sizing, I didn't buy the books from them. I got what I have are like 5 copies of what the trade paperback was.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. I don't have it with me. I didn't know you were going to ask me that question.
It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, if you go down, scroll down a little bit, you'll see. Go further down, further. Keep on going. Keep going. Go. There you go. Stop. Come up. Go back up, and you'll see the size.
Okay.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
Now you can see the difference in the size between a regular comic book from the 1980s and what this is. this is what it's going to, the size of be. Now, that was a 36-page book that I had done with 22 pages of story, but it had some of the coloring, the line art for kids to color, and instructions. What I decided to do was remove, and that had on both the dragon book and the pirate book had its own section of coloring and instructions. What I did was I pulled that out on both sides and made that the coloring, the drawing color book. So what happens is now, instead of having 2 books, I have 3 books.
Yeah.
Because that way it's easier. And also, these were square bound, perfect bind. The other ones, our books in this show, other campaign, they're going to be saddle stitch. They'll be stapled, but it'll still be very high quality paper. It's going to be like 110-pound text inside and 130-pound stock cover. So it's going to be a nice heavy, because you got young kids, they're going to be leafing through the thing and tearing, and they're going to make a mess out of it, but you want to give it as much of a wear as possible.
Indeed. Okay, so you're reprinting the dragon and the cupcake. You basically, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand, when they put money into these things, when you ask for support, when you are sponsoring an Indiegogo project or and I just lost what the other one was now.
Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Kickstarter. So when you're doing this, you're not so much paying the person for a product. What you're doing is you're helping them with a product that they want to make. Right. And in order, when you pay in money to sponsor, you're not basically paying them for a product. You're paying them to help them make a product that you will receive.
Right.
And so
that's the perk that you will get because you're helping. And, and that's the difference, because now for me, the reason that I set my goals so low is so that I can at least print the books.
Yes.
You're not going to, let's put it this way. It is like 120 pages worth of art and writing and drawing and what have you in there, that you could get all together if you buy the largest version of it. If you got the super duper version, with all 5 books and so on. The thing about that is that it took me, weeks and months to do the artwork. Just think about it. When that's all sweat and money and personal effort that goes into that, but to be able to do the book and print it, you don't know if somebody's going to be interested in it. So therefore, I say, okay, if you are interested to see what I've created as an artist, I need help me by here's the perk, and you get these books. Help me get this going and printing, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's all.
I want to try to quantify this for people, or put it down into black and white really quick here. Okay, now John, do you consider yourself retired?
Yeah, at this point, yeah. I mean, because
let's go back to when you were doing animation for companies, working with companies and stuff. And I don't know how much you made. You don't have to give me an exact amount, but the time that it took you to draw these things. If you were asked by a company, hey, we're commissioning you to draw this, about how much of your time would that have cost?
Okay, back then we're talking about let's go 19. I could give you a good thing. 1994.
Okay.
As a union person, I just had a little bit above scale. Okay, I was doing. That was $1,400 a week in 1994. We're talking now almost. We're talking about 25 years ago. So that's that's a fair amount of money back then.
Yeah, I would conservatively put that back in 1994, 1,400 a week. I conservatively put that. Let's just double it per week now.
Yeah.
So let's say 3,000 a week. And you said how many weeks did you spend on this? About?
Oh, I spent because I'm doing all the work and writing and drawing and everything. It's well, if you want to do the whole project, okay, we're talking about there'll be a full year.
Okay, so 12 months. That's 52 weeks. That's
that's $100. That's if it's $3,000, $150,000 worth of talent, of time and money and effort.
And that's kind of what I want to put. And I'm not saying that you personally are saying, oh, I'm just, I know you do this because you love it.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing it. I don't want anybody to think, oh my God, this guy is just selling himself short. Now, though, I will say a lot of us do think that you are really modest about what you're doing here and in your goals and stuff like that, which is perfectly fine. So let's go down here. So you've reprinted The Dragon and the Cupcake. And then you've printed What Do We Do with the Stinky Pirate? And then you have Mega Moose, and I'm trying to remember what the title of Mega Moose is.
Well, it's a Nicky Nartzen Mega Moose.
All right. So this is basically an origin story with Mega Moose, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with these 3 books, you are selling, or how many are you looking to print? Just
No, it really depends on. I'm going for. My goal is $1,500.
Okay, yeah. So that
$1,500 is the goal that I wanted to do, and I figure, okay, given that I also have expenses for, you got either rent or mortgage, utilities, and things, and all of that kind of stuff. I figured, all right, if depending upon what quality paper and everything, you could go to Mixum, or some places for this quality stuff, and you could figure it's going to cost you it could cost with shipping a good $4 to $4.50 a book.
Okay, so when you sit down, you're done with all your stuff. You have it all laid out. And I'm not sure how this goes. I know vaguely that you finish a page, and there's, if you went through I guess the way that regular comic books are, when there are more than one person, there's a person who does the generic drawing. There's somebody who does inking. There's somebody who does coloring, right? Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you do that. You are doing all of that. So once you get done with the colored finished product,
right,
these are just proof pages, correct?
Sorry.
Okay. So the pages that you finish when you're done, before you are waiting to print at this moment, right?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. What I'm doing is at this point, I've put it onto. I will be outputting files, for TIFFs or PDFs, which they want in CMYK, and so I would ship them to upload them in page format.
Okay, that's where I'm going with this. I'm just asking what the process is. So you've hand drawn everything, and then you scan it to your computer in a PDF?
Yeah, I clean them up and scan them, the line art into as taking care of the high contrast and making it as deep and dark a line as possible. But I also smooth it out a little bit, just to get it as a PNG. That way, just softened it just a little bit, and then I put it into the Clip Studio Paint, and that's where I assemble them and then do the lettering and the painting. Then I output it all. Okay,
all right. So then your finished product on the PDF or whatnot is is it set up like the book itself will be? You can the PDFs and stuff, you can flip pages through them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you set it up. So basically you have a virtual book on your computer, and that's what you're going to send them. Okay. So once you're there, we send it off.
Yeah.
Now, when we get to the main, when you get to your goal, your full goal of 1,500 on here, do you break it down where you say, okay, I have so many backers in this category, so many backers in this category, and then is that how you order your books?
No, I kind of figure what I did was I looked to see what the well, and when I did my calculations for the various, I kind of figured it would average out to, like, say, a certain number of books per, as a minimum.
Okay.
Copies per. And I would then say, all right, let's see what happens there. I can make adjustments, depending upon what the page rate is, because they're all very similar in terms of what they're asking for. People are asking for a certain amount of drugs, and I know that there's a minimum that I will publish, print out if I reach my goal, and then there's a minimum that I will publish, and then I will probably then once I go to Indiegogo, when I go through In Demand, I will then wait and see how far that goes and take it, because I have a dead. I'm going to deliver in March. I figure with all of the stuff that's going on with the post office and COVID and whatnot, it'd be crazy for me to try and deliver, this year.
Yeah.
Which is the same as I did it the last time.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, time. I mean, the money thing is just, again, I want people to understand this, and this is not just you. This is a lot of the people that go to IGG on this. These are people who want their stuff out there and are basically saying, just help me print it, and I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
When you first started, if you had this back when you first started, what would that impact have been? What's the impact of things like Indiegogo and stuff like that for animators and stuff? Because I mean, I do music. Okay. I don't, like I said, I think I have some good drawings, but I'm not a drawer that I can just pump it out or get it out there in a timely fashion. But with music, the first big step for people who were not, your name bands, your people that were signed by these big companies, the first big step was mp3.com. Oh, wow, we can record this. We can throw this up on the computer. The first band I was in, we had some in the region. So like 6-state area, we had 2 songs at one time in the top 10. We were just flabbergasted. Like, oh my God, this is not possible any other way. What is the effect of IGG and Kickstarter and things like this for animators today? And what would it have meant to somebody like you when you first started? There are too many parameters. You've got, first off, between the time that I was doing, I first started doing self-publishing, as a small press back in the 90s. It was considered vanity press. So therefore, it's different from people putting out music. You want, because music, you either do it or not. I mean, the small presses of music, all of the small labels, would do stuff back then. You talk about in the 50s, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That was the way, it was okay. But today, the only reason that I think that things like Kickstarter and Indiegogo are valid today, and the only really reason that they'll exist is you got computers, you have all of the sophistication, but also you have the media has so constricted creativity that there is no place. I mean, it used to be, I guess, in the 80s and 90s. The small the local comic book shop
I mean, they had a lot of stuff that was going in. But I remember even in the late 80s and early 90s, late 80s, one guy, this is in Los Angeles, saying, there's so much material of new press. This is the time when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started out, and that was the black and white comics.
Yeah.
At that time. He says, I've got too much product to sell. People can't read enough of it. Can't read all this. We can't sell all of these things. So there's a culling that usually happens. So today, because there's no place for people to actually produce, put out their material, the online avenues of raising capital and raising awareness and raising, the crowdfunding with Kickstarter and Indiegogo and whatever other thing that's going to come out of this. I mean, this is unique to this time and place. You can't take this back then, because things were growing back then too. In the 90s, 80s and 90s, animation was ramping up and going hard. Comic books were growing up. The small presses were really going at it. So there was a way to get your stuff out there. It was possible. But today, it just slammed. And so the gatekeepers, there are no gates anymore, because the gatekeepers are, they'll cut off stuff. But what they do is they keep the creativity from coming in, and then the pasture that they're gatekeeping is kind of burning out, because it's been stripped of all its nutrients, and it's just all dying in there.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing with comics and illustration and animation and a lot of things nowadays is that I think, I'm thinking back to Shel Silverstein and, the New York Post and, all the places that used to have, illustrations, or just, all the small little strips, or the single, like the family circus type things. I mean, they were all over the place. And I think nowadays it's so constricted, and then they are so particular about what they're looking for. And back then it was like, hey, you got a cool little idea here. Let's put you in here. We're going to put you in the back, in the bottom corner of the comic section in the newspaper. Oh, wow. We hear a lot of good things. We're getting a lot of people writing the paper saying, hey, this is a cool little comic. Where did this come from? Okay, let's bump you up. We're going to ask you to, instead of one panel, we're going to ask you to do 3 panels now, like Garfield or whatever. And that's how it used to be. Nowadays, I don't know the last time I looked at a paper's comic section. I don't even know if they still do the Sunday funnies or anything like that. It's like, where did this stuff go? The things that I grew up with, like Saturday morning cartoons, because we've had that conversation plenty of times. What happened to that? That's crazy. Okay. So really quick, guys, if I want you to do me a favor. I put the link to John's IGG into the chat. I will make sure that I put it in the description with your name and all that, like I do every time. I want you guys to go check out John Celestri. And John, I have a final 5 questions for you.
Okay.
I think I've done this at least once, maybe both times, because I like kind of, cracking your skull and getting into your brain and seeing what you think. I like doing that to people. But okay, so the first question is what do you think of the use of computers in animation?
Oh, geez, that's a whole nother thing. It can be. Computers are it's a tool, but when the tool controls the artist, it's no good.
Okay. Can you give me an example? Not necessarily a direct example, but
you can't, for example, when, right now, most of the artwork in 2D animation that you see, in 2D animation is basically puppetry, where the artist is not drawing from within. He's manipulating a figure that's already been been put together and put out, and that's what they're right there. Is it keeps an artist from being able to put from what's inside going on, because they're constantly saying, okay, let's see, well, you could do this, and maybe I can tweak this a little bit here, tweak that. That's what you got.
I've told people lots of times, if it's an animated project, much like the upcoming Marvel What If that they're going to put on Disney Plus, they've mentioned that that's going to be like kind of illustrated or computer generated graphics, whatever. I've explained that those skeletons, those wire frames, are they're a dime a dozen. There are 100 of them. They have 100 skins that they throw up on them. This is not something that's hard to come out with. I mean, they can come up with a whole episode fairly quick. Now, again, there is work to be done. I mean, I'm not.
There is technical work that has to be done.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying it's a lot quicker than what,
it takes
30
time.
Years ago, what they would have asked you to do.
It is still, it all is work, but it's
imagination.
A different type of work.
Yeah. Do you think that computers have taken the imagination out of it?
Well, I think the suits, the money people have taken the imagination out of it. What computers have done is, in the parameters of how production is done, it has taken the individual artist out of it, so that you can't say this was done by so and so. Now, some people say that they can tell, how some character is being manipulated. Well, maybe that's a 1 in 1,000 artists, but if you can go and look at the old comics, the animation and the comics of the 1930s and 40s and 50s, and you can tell which animator was doing what scene, because they had their own particular way of holding a pencil and moving a line and doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, I've said it a lot now lately about Disney. I'm still a big Disney fan. Don't get me wrong, but I've asked, where are the Imagineers that Disney used to talk about? I mean, they have like nothing left of that brand that they used to call the Imagineers. All these people that came up with these animatronic characters, that came up with the new characters for movies and TV shows that they had. When you see them reproducing something they made 50 years ago, live action, it's like, why are we going forward with something new? I mean,
because they own it, and it's a lot easier to try and retool it than to come up with something new. I mean, Disney, looks at it. It owns half of the film and comic book and what have you properties.
Marvel, 20th Century. Well, what was 20th Century Fox now?
Muppets.
Sesame
Street.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Go through all of that, and so so that's
yeah.
But that's why I prefer doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, question number 2. What do you hope people will remember about you?
Ooh, more than my mustache. He was more than a big mustache.
Oh, remember the mustache. That's not an issue, but
well, he was more than just the mustache.
I mean, so like people like me and people like Sean Stackhouse, we're always going to say He-Man, Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, you again, I've made no bones about this. You formed my childhood years. I watched. I mean, just to talk to you. And remember back eating cereal in front of a TV in the morning while my parents were sleeping in, because that's how you took care. That's how you took care of kids back then.
Yeah.
But the messages that were in there, because they weren't like today's cartoons that are so, in many ways, vulgar and crass. Back then, you took those and you tried to have a message in there for children that children would understand. There's a way of saying it that children aren't going to understand. There's a way that they will understand. And I feel like you and other animators back in the 80s and stuff, many of you looked at it and said, let's find something kids will really gravitate to. But at the same time, we can put our message in there that they won't know that they're hearing a message.
Well,
but there's a message.
I think there wasn't so much a message as that a sense of fun.
Okay.
That's the thing that was that the message back then was having fun and to do stuff. Yeah, you would tag on. I mean, Lou Scheimer, who was a producer, head honcho for Filmation, he said, "Okay, we'll put a little tag on this." But you know what? It didn't stop the story. You know, there's always some kind of thing. There was always a little. I mean, if anything, it was like a 30-second. You know, what was the Aesop's fable? You know, moral of the story and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, okay. To say what would I want people to remember me by, I would like to that at least at this point, I don't know, maybe in a few years I'll ask me that question and I might give you a different answer.
Yeah.
Right now, I would say that I want to be remembered for reintroducing fun, whimsy, and innocence back to comic books.
Very nice.
And that way, and just fun, whimsy, and innocence, so that kids who pick up my book today will have the same fondness and remembrance of that as you are remembering what you were from what you grew up doing. So that's the only way that I can, you know, and that's why I want to do this, because I don't see anybody else doing it.
That's nice. That's very good. I love that. Next time I have you on, I might ask you the question in a different way. Same question, but different way. Like, what would your younger self have said back?
Hey, listen, I haven't changed.
Okay, well, that's great. No.
I haven't changed. I haven't changed. I'm still the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old doing this stuff. That's why I'm just locking right into that.
Awesome. That's great. All right. Question number 3. Now, other than animation, so take all your animation, all of that out.
Yeah.
What do you see as your most important achievement?
Oh, I don't know. Personal.
This is your question. It's what you feel is your most important achievement other than animation.
Trying to, or I guess getting to the point where young people want to talk to me about stuff.
Okay.
I mean, that's, I'll be 71 in October. So I figured, how many people want to talk to a 71-year-old man?
Well, I don't see a problem. Let me ask you this: Do you do like Comic-Cons or anything like that? Do you ever go?
I try. The last time I was at a convention was about 2 years ago. I mean, just as a person, just going in there.
Okay.
It just wore me out just being there. I mean, it's just walking around and trying to find a place and what have you. And it's not a comic book place. It's all about selling tchotchkes and what have you, and and all the merc and the pop culture. That's
go ahead.
That's what it is. And today, I mean, as I get older, I don't know that I could handle, being in one of those places, with the crowds and the energy that you need to maintain it, because all by myself, to be able to do that, go to spend time in an alley, an artist's alley and do setup and all that. I won't do it.
Okay. Now, what do you think of mainstream comics today?
I hate them.
Okay. Is that about as nice as you can get without?
Yeah. It's not. They're not for me, but I dislike them intensely because it's not just because they're not for me. I think what they've done is they've thrown away all of the people, all of the former fans, and go searching for some other fan. But they don't seem to be able to understand what they threw away.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like current mainstream comic books have gone away from the things that like Stan Lee and other people who are big names in the industry originally went out for. Stan Lee didn't draw a character, didn't come up with a character to embody a person or a group. He wanted the group or the person to embody themselves within the character, I think. So when he was drawing a character, he was thinking of things that he might have dealt with himself. And he's like, I identify with this character because of such and such and such and such. But he didn't draw the character to identify with other people. He wanted those people to read and find themselves within that character, I feel. And I don't see that very often anymore. I think they're drawing characters and making characters directly aimed at a group, a person. And I'm not sure, I don't see how that works.
I don't know. I don't know because I have stayed away from them. I tried. I did some research a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the books and saying, okay. Well, that's not for me. That's not for me. That's not for me. And so after you spending that amount of time, and you start saying, okay, I'm not going to waste any more energy on this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and so the machinations that go on for these various multimedia corporations, it's been spoken about in other in tweets and YouTube videos and what have you of others, where basically the comic books and the movies, Marvel, what have you, they don't coincide. You don't have the same thing going on. So, and comic books are not considered important to these media corporations. They just say, well, we have this idea, we just we'll take it and run with it and make something else. But they're doing stories from 10, 15, 20 years ago, or reworking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't find anything for myself to read. I have to go back and pull out my other stuff if I want to.
For sure. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
What is your biggest piece of advice for animators today?
Well, I mean, for animators, I don't know. I mean, comic book artists, I don't know. It is okay.
When I say animators, I mean illustrators, draw artists.
Learn. Okay, here. Okay, that learn more than just how to draw a figure. Learn how to tell a story. Learn what a story is and what are the elements of a story, and learn what makes for a successful story and what the various types are, because then you will understand what to do with your technical ability to draw a human form or design, but understand what the story, if a picture tells a story, you better know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say, is that learn how to write, what the elements of the story, and learn how to write a story. Being able to be not being critical, but understand the elements of what you're working with. Not just say, oh, this will make a cool image. I like to do this. I want to. What's the purpose for that image?
Mm-hmm.
That's my piece of advice.
For sure. Well, John, as always, I love doing these things. And I love having you on. It is such a great time, and I'm just so glad that I can help you explain a little more about how this goes and how this is, how you create this product, the time that it takes to do it, the kind of inner workings of it. And I really hope, and I want to tell everybody out there, guys, go check this out. Consider, if you've got kids, this is great stuff. And I have a 15 and an 18-year-old. They're never going to read this. Well, I don't know, maybe. I have a child who loves to draw, and I've sent them over to your web or your YouTube channel. I said, check out these videos. I will still be buying this.
Yeah.
Maybe for me. That's why I buy Rough Sketch, and I'll probably be buying this for me too. I don't really care because I love this stuff and it's great. But I really want people to check this out and give John the animator your time to at least check it out and check out his channel. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you? Let me minimize this. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and all of that good stuff?
Okay. On YouTube, it's John the Animator or John Celestri. On Twitter, it's at Celestri John. On Facebook, it's John Celestri. Really easy. And if you really want to find me, just Google. Go to Google or any of the search engines and just type in John Celestri, and you'll find me all over the place. I mean, that's just the way it is.
It is. If you guys want a great history, dare I say that I would say looking up your name is almost like Walt Disney. Maybe not with
no.
Wait. Not maybe not with quite the accolades, but there's a lot of stuff that you're attached to. Yeah. There is a lot of stuff that you're attached to, and it's amazing when you look into that. And like I said, I don't want to name compare necessarily. I'm just saying when you type a person's name in, like if you type my name in, you might get a few hits here and there of things and stuff. When you type your name in, you get a ton of stuff. There's an IMDb page. There's stuff about Filmation and there's just tons of stuff, and it's really cool. Type his name into Google, Yahoo, wherever, whatever your preferred search engine is, and just kind of look up the guy and see what he's about. It's amazing the stuff that you can find out, the things you've been attached to. I didn't know when I first talked to you until I looked it up, and I had talked to Mandy Summers and some other people, and they said, hey, check this out. And when I went there and I saw the Boba Fett, I was like, oh my God. I said, this is crazy. And then, there's He-Man and all the other stuff. I was like, oh my, just blew my mind. And so again, every time I get to talk to you, it's such a special honor for me. I appreciate you coming on here and giving me your time. Oh, thank you so very much. I want to say that, John.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for inviting me, and I enjoy talking to you. And it's a pleasure being able to speak with people and at least express myself and hear what you've got to say, your opinions, and that's it's a really nice way to communicate.
Indeed. Today. Yes, that's what I love. That's why I tell people about this channel. I don't stifle opinion as long as you're not a bigot, you're not not hating on people, you're not there's some things I won't allow on here, but if you have an opinion, I want to have people tell their opinion and their stories. It's really important. So thank you very much, and with that said, we're going to say good night, everybody. Say bye-bye.
Ciao.
Hey guys, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to subscribe to both channels, and make sure to check out our friends in the Fandom Minutes. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and BitChute, and you can also send us an email at sean@seanstackhousereacts.com and chrisknight at therealreview3000.com. And be sure to swing by our Teespring store to pick up some awesome merchandise.